Welcome to Pastor's Chat today. First, I want to thank you for your prayers over the past few weeks as we've been dealing with this sciatica pain. I did see a doctor yesterday and got a fairly good report, and actually I'm doing better. I'm convinced right now just simply because of your prayers. And so we appreciate it very much, and we'll keep you updated. They have scheduled an MRI and some other things to look into the source of the pain, and we're very encouraged, and we're doing better. So thank you for your prayers. Now let's continue here in Ephesians chapter 6, and we're looking at verse 9 as Paul is talking about the workplace. Yesterday, as you know, he talked about the servant or the employee and gives instructions to them as a Christian employee and what are your responsibilities. Now he's talking to the employer or the master, and he says in verse 9, "And you masters do the same things to them, giving up threatening, knowing that your own master also is in heaven, and there is no partiality with him." Just one verse for the masters here. And what we notice as we look at this is the Christian faith does not bring harmony by erasing social or cultural distinctions. Servants were still servants when they trusted Christ, and masters were still masters when they trusted Christ. Rather, Christianity brings harmony by changing the heart. Christ gives us a new motivation, not a new organizational chart or structure. Both servant and masters are ultimately serving the Lord and should be seeking to please Him. And when that is true, they're able to work together for the glory of God. And so now, what are the responsibilities of a Christian master in our day, or you would call him a boss or an employer? First, he must seek the welfare of his workers. Paul says here, do the same things unto them. Now, if an employer expects his workers to do their best for him, he must do his best for them. The employer must serve the Lord from the heart if he expects those under his authority to do the same. And so a Christian employer should never exploit his workers. One of the best Bible examples of this, of course, is Boaz in the book of Ruth. Boaz greeted his workers, if you'll remember, by saying, "The Lord be with you." And they replied, "The Lord bless thee." Ruth chapter 2, verse 4. Boaz was sensitive to the needs of his workers and generous even toward Ruth, a stranger. And his relationship with his employees was marked by mutual respect and a shared desire to glorify the Lord. Oh, today it's so sad because sometimes you hear people say, "My boss claims to be a Christian, but you'd never know it." That should never be the case with true, genuine, born-again Christians who happen to be employers. And so we see first, you must seek the welfare of your workers. Secondly, you must not threaten. And so he says, don't threaten, giving up threatening. And back in Paul's day, Roman masters, they had great authority and could even kill a slave legally, which they probably never did because slaves were very expensive. But Paul is teaching here that the Christian employer has a far better way to encourage obedience and service, because fear is a poor motivator. It often results in less effort, if not more. It causes more conflict amongst everyone, and it can't be sustained over time. So a better motivation is fairness and justice. Paul reinforces this in Colossians chapter 4, verse 1. And then thirdly, knowing that your own master also is in heaven. And so the master, the employer, must be submitted to the Lord. Submission to the Lord. Now, this is the master being told to be submitted to the Lord. And this is an emphasis taught throughout the book of Ephesians. Wives to be submissive to their husbands, be submissive to one another. Husbands love their wives as Christ loved the church. Children obey their parents. Parent raise their children in the fear and admonition of the Lord. Servant obey as unto Christ. And so literally, because we have a master in heaven, we should be submitted to him. So when each person submits to the Lord, submission to human authority becomes far less difficult. Matter of fact, Jesus taught the pathway to leadership was servanthood. And you'll notice in the Bible, the greatest leaders, David was called my servant. Moses was called my servant. They pictured themselves as servants of God, and that's the reason they were great leaders. They are accountable to God. And then he says, don't show partiality in the very last part of this verse. Paul chooses and closes this by reminding us there's no partiality with God. God judges and rewards both master and servant according to obedience or disobedience. This is so important before the holy God. Master has no special privilege before a holy God one day. And so this brings us to the close of this section that we've called Walk in Harmony. When we are filled with the Holy Spirit, we're joyful, we're thankful, we're submissive. We can experience harmony in our relationships, both at home and in the workplace. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, and peace. And of course, love is the greatest adhesive in the world that gives us the harmony, that gives us the witness that we are disciples of Jesus Christ. We love one another. Well, God bless you, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.